All right, well, good day and welcome Royal LePage professionals from across the country to the first in our sales success webinar series. Now, Learning Services is really excited to have you all here for our kickoff of this webinar series. Today's session is business planning with Chris Leader. So let's talk a little bit about what we're going to cover in this webinar. Now, I really wanted to get right into the meat of the matter and get things going real nice and quickly. So we're going to start off with I want to talk a little bit about the objective of our sales success webinar series, what we really want to get for you out of it. Then we're going to get right into business planning, and Chris is going to come in and do his presentation. I also want to talk to everybody about all of Learning Services webinars. We offer a webinar every single week, so that is definitely something for you to check out. And lastly, I want to make sure that you all have the opportunity to, you can go ahead and register for the next webinar right away. So, I'm going to say, hey, give you the link and make sure you can register for the next one. So what is our plan for the Sales Success webinar series? Well, the objective of this whole webinar series is really about enhancing your sales development. And we're hoping some of you are sitting together and doing this as a group. To really do this well, what we wanted to do is invite industry experts to come and craft a presentation and do it via webinar for our entire network. We have about 450 people signed up at the time when we were launching this, which is fantastic. At the same time, we wanted to release our topics quarterly to make sure that, if there's a new event, if there's something going on in the industry, it's something we can cover in this webinar. These are delivered around the 3rd of every month, the 3rd Thursday of every month. You can find all that information at royallepage.ca/training. So let's move on and get right into the topic itself. Today we're going to be covering business planning, and our presenter is, of course, Chris Leader. Now, I've presented a few times in an introduction for Chris, but all I can say is that he's a very passionate, funny, humble, entertaining. He's a personal person when he comes out and presents. It's everything you want as a trainer. Everybody I've spoken to raves about his presentation, his down-to-earth style, and how they really connect with it, because he really has walked a mile in your shoes. And he's also Canadian too. To call him an entrepreneur is an understatement. By the age of 24, Chris was already a successful realtor and a broker owner. At the same time, he partnered in a mortgage brokerage and ran it successfully for a number of years too. All of this led him to his true calling, which is training. His dream was really to launch his own training company, and as a result, Leader's Edge Training was born. And using his combination of real estate mortgage expertise, he provides state-of-the-art training, consultation services for real estate professionals across the country, mortgage professionals, and managers all over North America. His boundless energy, wit, and exemplary business expertise allow him to train some of the industry's best professionals. And I'm very happy to have him here today with us. Everybody, Chris Leader.
Thank you, Mike. That was a fantastic introduction. I'm always humbled when I hear that sort of thing, and I really appreciate it. I do. In terms of talking about our topic today, this is such an important piece of a successful sales desk, understanding what your objectives are for the year 2015, having a really good idea of what you intend to accomplish. And before I actually even get into the numbers and talk to you about some of the mindset that's necessary, I would really say to you that you need to sit in a quiet place for a little bit and contemplate what your goals are for this year. And when I talk about goals, goals are a byproduct or a metric based on being able to measure how good we are at the job that we do. So the first thing I would say to you is take some time to understand what you want to achieve, what your objectives are, and then once you have that in place, we can back it into an actual business plan for you so you understand clearly what you have to do. Now, the first thing I have for you when it comes to business planning, there are 3 critical questions that you need to ask yourself. The first one is, and most salespeople in real estate don't know what this is, and when I say how much money do you need, And when I talk about the word need, it's not want, because often I say to people, and they say, well, I want this, I want that, I'd really like to do this year, but those numbers aren't hard and fast. I'm talking about the need, and the need is really anchored to a couple of things. The first thing I would say to you is, how much does it cost you to run your personal life? How much does it cost you to run your professional life? How much money will you set aside this year for your retirement, because we don't have a pension in real estate? And when you add all of those numbers up, this is going to tell you how much money you need to generate. And having that first and foremost out in front of you is going to give you an understanding and bring you to an answer for the second question. So you got to know what that need looks like. And the second one is, what must I do to achieve that objective? What activities do I need to do every day to ensure that I meet or exceed my objectives for the year? Now, if you don't know what you need, then you're not going to know what you need to do. And you'll be like most of the average agents that roll into the real estate industry. 80% of the people come in every morning around 10:30 with their Tim Hortons in their hand. They do a little stretch, and then they say to themselves, I wonder what I'm going to do today. And you and I both know, to get the most out of every day, you got to have a clear concept of what you have to achieve. And I'm going to say this to you, that I believe on the top of your list every day needs to be some form of reaching out and connecting with people in the community and talking to them, and not just connecting with them, but talking to them about real estate. So when I talk about what do I have to do every day, I'm talking about basically prospecting, lead generation. Will it be door knocking, FSBOs, expired, sphere of influence? Will it be geographical farming? Or how are you going to do it? But what must you do every day from an activities perspective to ensure that you achieve your objective? And my third question for you would be this. Are you on track? Now, I recognize that it is just the beginning of the year, but really what I'm saying to you is that you need to have a barometer. Your barometer is it's your measurement as the Q1 comes to an end. Will you have exceeded your expectations? And if you haven't, and we're using results as our metric, how many sales did you do? How many listings did you do? Then you back it into the activities. What am I doing on a daily basis to support the results I'm looking for? Am I ahead of schedule or behind? And if you're not where you need to be, then you need to assess the activities that you're doing in the last Q1 to make the adjustments that are necessary going into Q2 so that you can get yourself to the position that you want to be, and that's ahead of plan for the year. So often I find that most people in the industry don't do a plan. They just roll into the office every day, and they just kind of go along, and they'll see what life brings them. Then there is a percentage that actually do a plan, and they typically do it in December or January. It's usually done on a Friday afternoon over a glass of red wine. They go through their numbers, they take a look at what they want to do differently in 2015, for example, and then they take their business plan and they put it in the top right drawer of their desk, and it sits in there for the rest of the year, and they don't look at it. Now, a business plan to me is probably the greatest measurement of where you're at, as long as you're looking at it on a regular basis. You should be taking that plan out, I would say, at the very least once a month, to take a look at what have I accomplished, what did I expect to do, and what adjustments do I need to make on the next month. I would rather see you take your business plan out every week, track your activities, and measure where you are. And I know that's a little overkill, but at the same time, I'd rather deal with a small problem 1 week into my strategies than deal with it a month later or 2 months later. So monitoring that. So most agents who do a plan don't even take it out of the top right-hand drawer of their desk. And I say to you that one of the great attributes of a business plan is using it as a tool to hold yourself accountable. One of the great activities that we do in my 7-week training program is measuring what you do every week. We keep track of all of your activities, and we make adjustments as we go along. What I would suggest to you, since we're probably not going to have a chance, many of us, to work together in the near future, is that you start tracking your own activities and your own results. And by doing so, you're going to be able to identify areas that you're having challenges in. It's going to allow you to make the adjustments going forward so that you can build a better and better plan. Now, I think a business plan is the main form of accountability. And if you look all over the continent, there are all kinds of companies out there that offer coaching, for instance. And coaching to me has always been inspiring people to do the things they know they should, but they're not. Now, I don't consider myself a coach. I consider myself a trainer. I teach people to do the things that they weren't aware of. I give them new ideas, new strategies, and I teach them how to build a successful sales desk. But one of the main components about coaching is accountability. And I say to you that a business plan, that, there's a lot of people out there, you're going to pay them $1,000 a month for coaching, you sign up for a year's contract. Often we find that you're not happy with the results you're getting from your coach. And often those coaching programs can set up an environment of dependence. And I believe you need to be independent, not dependent on. I think you need to know what you need to do. Most of you on the phone already know what that is. And then you've got to hold yourself accountable. And that's where your plan comes in. I think your business plan is your best coach. Inspect what you expect. Inspect what you expect every week, and I know that you can hold yourself accountable, you can make the measurements that are necessary, and you can move yourself through the year from Q1 to Q2, exceeding your expectations every 90 days. Now, when we talk about business planning, we took a look at, we took some information from a Harvard Business School study, and they studied 1,600 businesses over a 25-year period. And what they found when they studied these 1,600 businesses was that 84% of the businesses they looked at had absolutely no plan. They went into the office every day and they just kind of went through the motions to see what the day would bring them. Now, I train for everybody, and I train all over in the real estate industry, and these statistics would be in alignment with the industry in general. Most of the people out there I see don't have a plan. They often thought real estate was going to be easier than it is, and they're not even sure what they should be doing on a daily basis. On the other hand, 13% of the businesses that they looked at during the Harvard Business Study had a plan, but they weren't working the plan every day. They weren't looking at that plan regularly, and they weren't using it as a metric to make measurements on their on how well they were exceeding in their business. But here's the interesting: 3% of the 1,600 businesses had an actual plan. But what was interesting about this was 98% of the wealth was created by the people who had a plan and worked the plan. So even though it didn't come from real estate, I can tell you that this is pretty much the case in the world of real estate. Really top earners at Royal LePage have a plan. They do their plan every December or the 1st of January. They take a look at the previous year in terms of activities and strategies, things they invested in that worked and didn't work. And they make their adjustments going forward into the next year so that they can continually work on the success they had from the previous year. They can shore up some of the shortcomings in the coming year, and they can march forward to always be working to build a better business to serve their clients. I've had the good fortune of working with many, many of your top producers across the country. And I can tell you, when you look behind the curtain at really successful top producing Royal LePage agents, they have a plan. They work the plan. They meet with their team, because often they have teams, but they meet with their team on a regular basis, weekly, to discuss the objectives, take a look at their successes, take a look at their failures, and constantly work at building a better business. Now, here's some truths about business planning. First of all, numbers don't lie. Salespeople do. Now, I know that that's a bit of a humorous statement, but there's a bit of a point to it. Really good salespeople are often gregarious. They're big personalities. They have ADD. They're often distracted by the next new shiny thing. But that is it's a double-edged sword, because even though it has its downfalls, that big personality brings so much optimism and enthusiasm to your conversations that it's intoxicating, and people get caught up in that energy. And I applaud you for having that energy. I always want you to have that energy. But in saying that, often we start to believe our own BS. And, we're very good at telling a story and expanding on it. The typical fish story. I caught a fish this big. And that's your typical salesperson. And that's what makes you great. But you need to be regrounded all the time, because otherwise you start to believe your own stuff. And the problem with that is, and I'll give you an example. I'm talking to a real estate agent. The real estate salesperson maybe did $120,000 in gross closed commissions last year, reasonable income. And you ask the person, how much money did you make last year? What did you gross? And they'll say, oh, around 200. And you think to yourself, how did you go from 120 to 200? Well, that's just the way salespeople are. I mean, they're optimistic. They're big personalities. But in saying that, today, being in real estate is more sophisticated than just being a salesperson. You have to be a good business person. And it's not just about the sales. It's about the profitability of your sales desk. And that's another reason why you got to revisit your numbers on a regular basis, because often we think we're doing more than we actually are. Another concern I have with real estate salespeople is they often use their general account as a barometer to their success. And I'll give you an example. Let's pretend for a second you closed some deals in the 1st of February and you had, I don't know, $20,000 in commissions came into your general account. And it gives you that sense of that euphoric sense for that very short moment when you're looking at your account. Oh my God, look at that. I got $20,000 in the bank. I am just in fantastic shape, and it's only February. But what you don't realize is that you have $24,000 going out in expenses that you've committed to, and you're actually on the wrong side of that balance sheet by $4,000. And for that very short moment, you're feeling euphoric. But when you understand your numbers, then you're going to understand that you're going to have to produce more to meet the expectations you've got in front of you. So often I find people use as a barometer their general accounts, and that's not what you want to be using as a barometer. You want to be using your business plan that I'm going to show you, and you're going to use that plan to constantly gauge where you are so that you have an understanding of the expenses that you are committed to. You understand that the revenue, you understand clearly what amount of revenue needs to be generated every month. And you understand clearly what activities have to be done on a daily basis to underwrite the revenue that's necessary to balance your sales desk. When you have those understandings and you have that clarity, then you know exactly what you have to do. And then the only question is, will you do what needs to be done? So, numbers don't lie. Now, financing is important in the world of real estate. You need enough capital and available credit to get you through at least 6 months. So I know that many people on the phone are new in real estate, and I remember what it was like to get started. Even though I've been at this business a long time, I can remember my first couple of years in real estate like they were yesterday. And I would say to you that those are really challenging times. You want to build a great business. You understand that there are certain excuse me, certain investments that are necessary in terms of marketing, online strategies, different things like that, but you have to plan for it. And one of the things you need to understand about real estate, and I'm not talking about that big cycle that we talk about, a 7-year cycle or a 12-year cycle, depending on what economist you're listening to at that point, but I'm talking about the 12-month cycle in a real estate sales desk. And that sales cycle has a lot to do with, if you take a look at it, even though we have swings in the market and we have things like where a recession comes or we have a boom market, but there are months throughout the calendar year that are busier, and there are months that are slow. You need to understand the cycles in real estate. And I'm not talking again about that 7-year cycle or 12-year cycle, but I'm talking about 12 months. For instance, we know that June is probably is the biggest closing month on the calendar. And the end of June, or June 1st, 15th through the 30th, has a lot to do with what you sold in April, because everything closes approximately 45 or 60 days later. So when you understand what's happening in April, that has a lot to do with what you did for your advertising in February and March. Now, February and March is affected by the amount of revenue you close in November and December, so the previous year. So if your months are down, you got some choices in front of you in February. Do I cut back on my advertising? Do I go to my operating line? But you got to make choices, because there is going to be or do I pick up the amount of activity I do in November and December to make sure I have revenue in February to support my marketing? So take a look at 12 months. Take a look at the cash flow of your business. Cash flow is very important. In fact, cash flow is king. Understanding when the money's coming in, when it's going out, and what you're committed to is going to give you peace of mind. It's going to reduce the emotional roller coaster in real estate by having clarity of what's in front of you. It's more sophisticated running a sales desk than it's ever been today. And you're not just a salesperson, you're a business person. And a business person has to understand when the cash is coming in, when the expenses are committed to, what type of revenues. So make sure you put some money away, or you have some financing to be able to cross the chasm and get from February to the spring market to be able to capitalize and maximize your position for your June closings. Everything is connected. Everything is connected. 1 month to another month to a quarter. And understanding the cycles in your business will give you great clarity in understanding what you have to do. And if you don't make decisions, if you don't make choices for your business, then the marketplace will make decisions for you. And you will be forced into making decisions if you don't make choices. And you have choices when you have a plan, because you can see clearly what's out front of you, and you can make the adjustments or do what's necessary to make sure things balance. If you have a plan, time is on your side. For instance, it's December. You've got some money coming in from your September and October closings, but you can see you're going to be light in February because December has been a quiet month in real estate sales. You know what you're committed to in terms of your expenses, and because you can see that out front of you, and you're not using your general account as your barometer, because that doesn't have any effect. See, that general account looks good today if it's December because of our September and October deals that we wrote and closed. So we're sitting on $20,000 or $30,000, and we think, man, we got a whole bunch of money. But you got to look down the road into January and February to see what you have closing in December, so you can understand how you're going to allocate that $30,000 that you have in your account right now, and you can decide what choices and decisions you're going to make so that the world doesn't make them for you. So this is going to give you a great sense of being able to look into the future. This is what smart business people do. You're going to need to invest money in your business. Now, I'm talking about being prepared, but if you don't invest in your business today, you will not attract tomorrow's clients. So you've got to put money in your business. Now, I expect you to do your homework. I expect you to do your due diligence. I expect you to do your research. But at the end of the day, if you want your business to grow, you got to invest in it. Top producers are investing somewhere around 30 to 40% of their gross revenue into their business every year. So when they take a look at their revenue and they take a look at their budgets, they allocate a certain amount of money each year, and they say, this is what I'm committed to. This has got to include both my digital program, my direct mail program, the fees for my assistant, my board dues, and blah, 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 blah. You know the list. But here's the thing. They're willing to put money into their business. So often I talk to a group of real estate salespeople. I'll do a seminar or a workshop, and they're notoriously cheap. They won't spend a nickel because they don't have the mind of an entrepreneur. They come from a position where they used to get a paycheck, and they're not thinking like business people. Now, I don't want you to squander your money, and I don't want you to take unnecessary risks. What I want you to do is take a look around at the best strategies you can find that are going to move your model forward and be prepared to make an investment. You can't make $1 million a year or $500,000 a year if you won't spend some money to build a business. If your plan's not simple, you won't look at it every week and every month and every quarter. If it's so complicated and so time-consuming, there are many other things in your life that you have to do in the world of real estate to stay productive. So it's not like you can spend, a day every week looking at your plan. But you got to know what your numbers are, so you know what your objectives are, so you know what your activities are. So the plan's got to be simple. The good news is I've got a very good business plan for you, and it's very simple. Very simple to operate. Now, truths about business planning. Tomorrow belongs to those who plan for it today. For all of our people on our phone today, you need to take a look at what you're going to do for your retirement. Real estate doesn't have a pension, and you have an incredible opportunity available to you. No one knows real estate in your community better than you do. So if you want to plan for your retirement, you need to start today. Each and every one of you needs to look at buying one house a year, and conventionally, and here's the important word here, conventionally, don't leverage, conventionally finance, not high ratio. Don't bank on the futures market because nobody knows what direction the price of real estate is going to go. But use sound business principles when investing and make sure that your investment into your investment property will be significant enough to allow you, the tenants, to carry the balance of the mortgage and retire the debt for you. Put that in your business plan. so that when you've spent 15 or 20 years in this business, you got 10 or 12 houses maybe that are paid for. Think about what type of position you would be in. So, planning for tomorrow. Out of every dollar you generate from real estate sales this year, a percentage needs to go into your business. I'd like to say about 30-35% needs to go into running your business. So take out a dollar and divide 35 cents of every dollar you bring in to go back into your business, into your website, into your direct mail, into your marketing pieces, into your assistant, into your print media, whatever it is you're doing, whatever is working for you. If it's word traffic, whatever it is. But you got to invest in your business. Number two, you're going to need to understand clearly what your personal commitments are. How much is your personal mortgage? How much are your groceries? How much is your electricity bill? How much is your natural gas bill? How much is your insurance, your life insurance, your kids' expenses? You got to know what that is, because out of every dollar you generate in real estate, you got to put some back in your business, and you have to also put some in to cover your personal expenses. Number three, you got to plan for your retirement. I've explained that to you earlier, but I would really recommend that you start setting some money aside so that you're going to be in a position to be able to retire, or at least choose later on in the future how you want to go about your business. Now, another suggestion I would have for you is Anthony Robbins. Tony Robbins just wrote a new book on money management. So you should search that out. It's a very good read, and he's got some good strategies. A little bit of American tilt to it, but setting that aside, if you look past the U.S. stuff in the book, there's some great strategies that would be very positive for everybody on the telephone. So Anthony Robbins' new book, his new book on finances. The fourth thing is, after you've paid for your investment in your business to attract tomorrow's clients, you've paid for your personal life to make sure you've got your mortgage paid and your kids' education paid. You've put money away for your retirement strategy, and you're working on that. The final piece of this is that if you do all of that right, there should be some rewards in it for you. Real estate is a fantastic business. So why and there are all kinds of people that I work with in real estate that have taken their business to an incredible level. Have you ever thought about what it is you want? Is it a new car if you did everything? Is it a new pool in the backyard? Is it a new house? Do you want a cottage or a chalet somewhere in the mountains? Maybe you want a condo, a winter home down in Cabo or in Florida or someplace. The point is, you can have whatever you want. Real estate is one of those few businesses that make that possible. But you got to know what it is, and you got to be prepared to pay the price in terms of the activities that are necessary to support your objectives. So if you want something, my suggestion to you is create a vision board. Put it in a prominent spot in your life. Put your goals and objectives on the vision board. And I don't know how the law of attraction works, but I promise you, if you put it on a vision board, you get an actual photograph of what it is you want to accomplish, achieve, own, or have. It's going to show up in your life. So out of every dollar, a percentage goes to your business, percentage goes to your personal life, retirement, and rewards. Now, in terms of building your business plan, the first thing we got to look at is, to build your plan, you need to know what the average commission is per transaction in your marketplace. And I'm using averages. I mean, take a look at your marketplace. Are you selling 200, 500, $1 million houses? Because we got people on the phone from all different marketplaces. You need to look at what your transaction, your revenue is per transaction. Then what you need to look at is your close ratio on your listings. How many listings did you take last year, and how many of them sold? Like in most businesses, you're going to take some business that maybe you shouldn't have, and I realize that because you're not in a perfect world. You're going to go on a listing appointment, the seller's going to push you a little too hard on asking price, or somebody changed their mind, or there's just things that happen in real estate. So take a look at last year. How many houses did you list, and what was your close ratio on how much of that business actually converted? And then what was your sign ratio on your appointments list with you? So how many appointments did you go on last year? And what is your ratio in terms of conversion? How many people do you actually convert when you go on your appointments? I always like to use the 1 in 3 ratio, because if you're prospecting hard every day, you're going to line up opportunities that when you go in, the seller's going to want more than the house is worth, no matter what you show them, what you do, what you give them. You know, it's just not, you just can't convert it. Or you've got somebody there who doesn't want to pay your commission, or they're making it increasingly hard for you to do business. We run into this all the time. So I always like to work on a 1 in 3. I mean, I always figure if I'm closing 30% of the opportunities I'm going in front of, that's a pretty decent close ratio. Maybe some of you it's going to be higher. Some of our new people it might be lower. So you're going to have to work your own numbers into the spreadsheets. And then your prospect ratios. How many people do you need to talk to be able to convert those actual conversations into actual appointments? And often people say to me, yeah, you know, I knocked on 40 doors yesterday. I said, oh, you did. Now you got to understand something about me. This is my 36th year in real estate. 36 years. So I've been at this a long time, and I'm pretty long in the tooth. So I know the right questions to ask. For instance, I say, what'd you do yesterday? You know, one of my students will say to me, oh, you know, I went door knocking. I knocked on 40 doors. I say, good for you. How many people did you talk to? Oh, talked to, eh? Well, I guess I talked to 8. So really, we had 8 real estate conversations. All that other stuff that they were putting out there, those 40 doors, that really doesn't matter. It's not about the number of doors you knock on. It's not about the number of the dials you make on the phone. It's about the number of conversations. So what is your prospect ratio? How many people do you need to talk to convert to an appointment? You should know those numbers. Now, taking a look at our budget, what you want to do is take a look at 2014 as a bit of a measurement. Take a look at 2014 and everything you spent in your business, and what I want you to do is assess what 2015 is going to look like. Use 2014 as one margin, but assess what 2015 is going to look like and come up with all of those numbers. Office, vehicles, salary, advertising, technology, hardware, software, whatever it is. Add it to your necessary personal expenses. Your mortgage, your groceries, your electricity, your insurance. Add it to your discretionary personal expenses. And we all have discretionary personal expenses. And then add it to your retirement, your investment numbers. And this is going to tell you how much money you need to make every month. Then we're going to multiply that by 12, and it's going to tell us how much money we need to make every year. Now you know what it's going to take to balance, how it's going to work. The next piece of the equation is going to be step 2 in your business plan, is from our numbers, the annual income from our previous exercise that we went through, we're going to need to figure out how many transactions. So that's where we go back to the average commission per revenue unit or per transaction or per side or per end or whatever it is you're calling them. And then for this example, let's just use the number 5,000. I want to keep it simple. So it's $5,000 a transaction. And I want to make $100,000. So how many of my listings need to sell next year? 20. Very simple. I need 20 listings to close at $5,000 to make $100,000. Now let's take a look at the next step. Determine the number of listings required is going to be the number of transactions per year divided by your close ratio. So when I talked about those ratios earlier, and you can put in your own numbers, if you figure out, you know, how many listings did you take last year, and how many of those listings actually converted to commission checks. So for this example, let's say 75%. So that meant I needed to close 20 deals. I would need 27 listings because I'm going to have 7 that somebody's going to change their mind. They're asking too much money. Maybe the job transfer didn't come through. Maybe the husband and wife got to back together and the marriage didn't break up. There's a million things that happen in our business. But to make sure that we're leaving some wiggle room in your business plan, you got to overextend it a little bit. So that's where I come up with the 75%. So we know I got to get 27 listings. Now, setting that aside, I'm going to need to know how many appointments. Now, I'm working on a 1 in 3 ratio. Maybe you're new in real estate. It might be 1 in 4 or 1 in 5. Or maybe you're a real strong closer, a heavy hitter, and you qualify really hard. You don't go on 1 in 3. You get 1 out of every 2 you go on. Or maybe you get 2 out of every 3. You're at a 65% close ratio. Fantastic for you. I think that's magnificent. But most importantly, know your numbers. So if we're working on a 1 in 3, that means I'm going to need to go on 82 listing appointments to get 27 listings to close 20 deals this year. So 82 listing appointments. Now the next question I got to ask you, we know how many appointments I need to go on. How many conversations do I need to have? So I'm going to, how many conversations am I going to need to have to get 82 appointments? Well, I worked on a 1 in 10. So that means I'm going to be looking at 820 contacts. Now, if you work on a 5-day work week and you have some holidays and time to show houses and that, and you take 2 weeks off a year, that's going to give you 250 work days. That means to achieve my objective, 820 conversations, 82 appointments, 27 listings, 20 closed deals, I need on a 5-day work week to have 3 meaningful real estate conversations every day. So my number is 3. I know before I can go home at night, I have to have 3 conversations with 3 strangers about real estate. FSBOs, expireds, door knocking, cold calling, whatever you want to do. Just do something and do it well. Now, if I wanted to make 200,000, how many calls would I need to have every day with people? How many conversations would I need to have? It would need to be 6. So I'm using this as an example. You can take out my numbers, put in your numbers, but it's going to give you a framework for you to be able to work through and start to build your plan. Now, if your revenue is higher than you expected, good for you. You're having a banner year. Maybe it's interest rates because they dropped a 1/4 point. So maybe interest rates came down. Maybe interest rates came down and house sales went up. Now, the one thing I want to caution you about is always keep a clear mind. You know, sometimes our business is affected by the economy. It doesn't need to be, but sometimes it is. Sometimes people develop a false sense of how good they are because the economy is so good. I mean, let's be real. If they drop interest rates, and we were at 2.8, I think, yesterday on a 5-year fix, and if they drop a 1/4 point, we're around 2.25, 2.35%. I mean, there could never be a better time to be in real estate when interest rates are as low as they are. Now, I know that we're all across the country. I know that Alberta's got some challenges with oil. I know Saskatchewan does, and I know Newfoundland does. I get that. But there are other provinces that this is going to have a positive effect. So, you got to take the good with the bad. Alberta had a great economy there for a while, and it'll be back again. I mean, the one thing for certain about Alberta is it comes back. Saskatchewan comes back. Newfoundland will come back. So we got to ride through it. So there could be no more important time than right now for those provinces to understand your cost of operations and understand clearly what your objectives are. Because sometimes, in the words of John F. Kennedy, a rising tide raises all boats. But it doesn't take a great salesperson to sell houses in a great real estate market. But it takes a great salesperson to sell houses in a bad market. It doesn't take a good captain to sail a boat on a sunny day. It takes a great captain to sail through a bad storm and get you to a safe harbor. You'll learn more about selling houses in a bad market than you'll ever learn in a good market. And if your intent is to stay in this business and not be an opportunist, but to be a professional, then you're going to have to go through the good and the bad and understand that it's an education and an experience. And whatever we're dealing with today, no matter where you are in the country, I can promise you it will pass. It always does. And the one thing that is certain, you know what follows a bad real estate market? A good real estate market. And you know what follows a good real estate market? A bad real estate market. That's just the cycle. And if you understand that, you prepare for it. And like the statement said earlier, the future belongs to it. The future belongs to the people who prepare for it today. So if your revenues are higher than you expected, make sure you put some away. Don't take your foot off the gas pedal, because we do have rainy days in real estate. You got to put a little slush fund together so that when we do, you're going to be able to maintain your business model and think with a clear head, because you're not being forced by the marketplace to make choices. If your revenues are lower than you expected, I can tell you why you're not making enough money. And I say this with confidence, and I say it with conviction. The one thing you have to be good at in the world of real estate sales is creating opportunities. However you want to create those opportunities can be through online traffic, it can be through word traffic, it can be through social media, it can be door knocking, FSBOs, cold calls, expireds, but you have to be good at prospecting. If you're not making enough money, you're not prospecting enough. I can promise you that. Secondly, how will you change? What will you do to generate the leads that are necessary? And I'll tell you something else about real estate. There's an unwritten rule in this business. Learn to do the tough stuff really well and you'll make a fortune. And the hardest thing to do in real estate, not because it's complicated, but because it's mentally tough, is the ability to prospect. And finally, are you cutting your commissions? Because if you're cutting your commissions, I can tell you right now that you're creating all kinds of other problems. Now, I can't necessarily tell you what commission rate to set because that would be a conspiracy on our part to price fix. And I'm not conspiring with anybody to fix prices. Charge whatever commission rate you want. But I'll be really honest with you. And if you can at all see any value in 36 years of real estate experience, commission cutting does not work. I don't know how else to say it to you. There is no other model out there. I'll tell you what model works really, really well. Really, really well. 6%. I'll tell you what model works okay. 5. And if you go south of 5, it's because that your digital presentation so that you can communicate your value so people see value in paying what they're paying for your services. So,
Sorry, Chris, it looks like we had a little bit of an audio issue, and I'm not seeing your screen anymore.
You're not seeing my screen anymore.
Yeah,
okay,
so
okay, but they're hearing my sermon.
indeed, for the most part, yes.
Okay, they're hearing the sermon. That's probably, I don't know what happened to our videos, but or our presentation. Tina's going to pull it back up, but I could rant all day on commissions. So I hope that I hope that people got value in that. Can you see it now?
Yes, I can see it now again.
Okay,
yes.
So if your expenses are higher than you expected, now we're going from revenue to expenses. If they're higher than you expected, where are you overspending? Was it a one-time capital purchase that you didn't forecast in your budget, or will you have to make? Have you adopted a new marketing strategy that you're going to be committed to on a monthly basis, and will you have to adjust the plan, which includes increasing your revenues? In terms of how it affects your budget. If your revenues if your expenses are lower than what you expected, this may be a problem as well. You might be underspending, and if you are, why? Remember, you have a business plan. Your plan says that you are committed to certain activities, strategies, and marketing ideas. If you pull back from those strategies, ultimately you're going to affect tomorrow's opportunities. You got to be investing in your business, guys, if you want it to grow. Now, let me give you some tax planning tips. For the people on the phone who have been at this business any length of time, I'm certain you've probably been audited by Revenue Canada. And they told you it was just a random audit. Well, let me tell you something. There's nothing random about Revenue Canada. My first suggestion to you is stay away from these people. The Revenue Canada is like the seventh horseman of the apocalypse. These people, when they come, they're going to leave with more than they came with. Trust me, I've been audited a number of times. My first suggestion to you is to get a very good tax accountant who understands commission sales. Number one, when you have your random audit and you get your letter, and you will, because it's part of being a small business owner, send the letter over to the accountant immediately and ask the accountant to deal directly with Revenue Canada. Revenue Canada will call you and they will want to ask you questions. I can't suggest strongly enough that you tell them, I have an accountant on retainer. My accountant is aware of your requests, and he's willing to answer any and all of your questions, or she is ready to answer any or all of your questions. They'll say to you, but I just have a few questions, and say, I'm sorry, I don't handle the finances. And if you get tangled up and you allow these people to tangle you up, they're going to take you off your plan. Your production numbers are going to drop. You're going to get yourself in a tailspin. What you want to do is push that to the accountant and tell Revenue Canada to go see your tax accountant. And what do? Get out and sell some more houses. Get out and make more calls. Get out and do your prospecting and let go of it and give it to your accountant. So, in our business, it's not what you earn, but what you keep. Now, I want to tell you something else. I have had the opportunity to do audits on many of the large teams across Canada. And they asked me to come in and do an operations audit on their team. And the problem that they're having behind the scenes is that their net profitability isn't high. Now, if you were to say that person sells a lot of houses, you would be absolutely right. But that's not the issue, selling houses. It's about having net profitability. Or he makes a lot of money, that guy. Yes, he does. He just doesn't keep any of it. There's a big difference between gross and net. And it's not about how much you gross, it's about how much you keep. Really smart business people are good at keeping their expenses down and their revenues up. So they're very good at, for instance, in the world of real estate, listing houses at the right price. And that takes skill to be able to communicate price so that the seller understands. And that's a whole other workshop. But setting that aside for a second, just so you understand the math, the sooner the house sells, the less expenses you have, which increases your net profitability. So the sooner you can put the sold sign up, the more money you're going to make off of each and every revenue unit. So it's about net profitability. So focus on net, not gross. Number two, commission salespeople get great tax benefits, but those benefits are only available if you keep your receipts. So you've got to keep accurate receipts. And don't go to your accountant in April with a shoebox full of receipts and say, here, can you fix this? What you want to do is go to your accountant at the beginning of your fiscal year and say, I'd like to strategize in maximizing my tax position so that I would be afforded all that's available to me, so I would be able to add as much as I can to the profitability of my business. And I'm not asking you to break the law. I'm asking you to get what you have coming to you. And that's done through working with a good accountant who can help work with you in tandem, help support your strategies, your business plan, and will help you with your capital purchases on your calendar year to make sure you're able to maximize your net profitability and when you should buy and sell things. So, great tax benefits. Schedule the meeting at the beginning of the year with your fiscal year with your accountant and strategize on what you're going to do. And then bring your budget and your business plan or send it to them in advance so that when you sit down, you're not spending time recreating something, but you're getting the most out of the time with your accountant and having the accountant work with you on making sure your business is solid. Now, again, you are going to get an audit if you stay in real estate long enough. I hope you don't. But if you do, don't lose sleep over it. You've got a good accountant. The accountant will look after all of that for you. Now, some of you are writing off your home office. And I want you to know that if you are, you're able to allocate, for instance, the office space that's in direct proportion to you write off the amount that's in direct proportion to the space of the house. And it has to be specifically an office. And Revenue Canada will come to your house, and they will want to inspect your office. Now, your office can't be, for instance, and I see this, can't be your computer on the corner of the kitchen counter, and you think you're going to write a piece of your house off. You can't do that. So you're going to have a physical office. And in most cases, you can't have an office at the house and at the office. So these are the sort of discussions you want to have with your accountant. And your good tax accountant will steer you in the right direction to make sure you make the right choices. Even things like your car. If you write off more than you should, it's going to flag the tax people. And then when the tax people come to look, maybe your car account is spot on. It's perfect. But they're going to look at everything. And you should also be aware that if it's consumable and you give it as a gift, you can only write half of it off. That includes alcohol or dinners for your clients, including gift cards. So just ask the right questions at the accountant, what you can and can't do, and understand something. We have to pay our taxes. And avoiding paying taxes is only going to bring the attention of Revenue Canada. And trust me, from a small business person's perspective, just pay what you should. You always give Caesar his due, and that's going to allow you to operate with a clear conscience and a clear mind and not be bothered by things that aren't going to support your business. Now, there's a great business plan that we have. Normally, we sell this business plan for $200. Royal LePage has a special discount today, and it is good until February 15th. You can order it on our website. You're able to use this business plan year after year. It's got it runs all of your forecasts, your budgets, your actuals, your degree of variances. It's got a built-in barometer to let you know if you're behind or ahead of schedule on your revenues. It will, if you monitor it on a regular basis, it will help you identify small problems before they become big issues. And Mike, this should bring us to the end. I know you got a slide or two, and then we're going to have some questions. So if you want to chime in and take over, that'd be great.
Indeed. Thank you so much, Chris. Again, what a fantastic webinar, and I can't believe the amount. I was taking notes here, and just crazy amount of notes. I will say to everybody, if you're in the Hangout, there is a question and answer pane, so if you do have some questions, you can type those in there, although I haven't seen too many questions so far. I do want to apologize to everybody. We had an issue where the server kicked all of us out, including myself and Chris, but it came up rather quickly. It came back again. Just to reiterate for us from Royal LePage, just so everybody knows, Leaders Edge virtual training is something that we have in the RLP network for you to check out. We have a partnership with Chris Leader, of course, and the Leaders Edge. It is a 12-week in-depth training program for you, everything from lead generation over to objection handling, which I think ties in quite nicely with quite a bit of what you were speaking about, Chris, today. Of course, you can ask your broker or manager to contact Learning Services to inquire about bringing this training to your office. Now, at the same time, I want to mention the other webinars that Learning Services does. We do webinars every single week. So the first week of the month, we're going to be starting a new webinar series called Building Your Tech Toolkit, where we're going to be showing people essentially everything from Google tools to SEO and analytics and all kinds of stuff to help them learn more about technology. The second week, we do our welcome webinar where we talk about all of Royal LePage tools and services and give a full overview of what's available to them. The third week, of course, is sales success, which I've already talked quite a bit about, and you're here. And the fourth week is getting started with the Marketing Center, where you can come in, learn about the projects you can create in the Marketing Center and the drip campaigns, how do you use them, and all of that stuff. All of our webinars are available on royallepage.ca/training, plus our live workshops as well. Finally, I just want to let everybody know, Chris, you spoke about a book, Anthony Robbins. I did post the link in our Google Plus page. It's, I believe, Money Master the Game, 7 Simple Steps to Financial Freedom.
Yes.
Yes, so I posted a link in the Google Plus page, so you can go check that out for this event. And on the YouTube video itself. And I invite all of you to join us for our webinar next month, which is going to talk about lead generation and prospecting. And you spoke quite a bit about how many contacts per workday, and we're mentioning 3. If you want to double your income, you have to get to 6. So I think it really ties in nicely to our next month topic, which will be again presented by yourself as well. This is going to happen Friday, February 20th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And to sign up, it's real simple. Go to royallepage.ca/training and look for Sales Success on the left side and register today. You can register right away. It's actually sitting there right now waiting. So we do have a few questions. So a few people are asking just about the business plan and saying, so I have Karina Payne, who's asking, is it an electric format? Can you customize it? Can you fill it in? So I think that's from your business plan that you guys offer.
The answer is yes, yes, and yes. It's digitally delivered. You do it on your computer. You could print copies if you wanted to, but you can do it right on your computer, and it is you can make all the adjustments with whatever your expenses are. They actually, the plan will populate from spreadsheet to spreadsheet and bring those numbers over, help you create your actual business plan. It's 100% goof-proof. You can't break it. And once you've purchased it, it's good for year after year after year. And you can run different scenarios. You could look at what does it look like to make 250 this year, 350, 500. What do I have to commit to from an activities perspective? So it's a fantastic form of accountability. Brings great clarity.
Cool. Thank you. Sharon McGuigan. Oh, I'm bad at cold reading names. I shouldn't do this. So Sharon is just asking, how do I order the business plan? Now, I did post the link on our Google Plus page for this event, but if you would mind just going back to that slide and maybe showing that again. So just showing how do you order the business plan. So it's leadersedgetraining.com/products. You can always just give a quick phone call as well, 866-607-7999.
And it's automatically sent to you over the internet, and we will automatically load it right into your computer for you, so you can start using. I mean, if you called in the next 10 minutes, you'd be working with it tonight, or tomorrow morning or whatever. So it's that quick to get it to you.
Cool. Thank you. And I have a few people who are asking about getting a copy of the presentation. We're not going to make this presentation available to you, but this is a recorded webinar, so you can always come back and listen to it. I know, again, some of you had some audio issues, but from our end, the audio went quite smoothly. I didn't have any problems on that respect. So you'll be able to come back to this YouTube link and watch it again.
I would also say if anybody wants to book me, I'd be happy to come and deliver it right in your office for you.
That
Forgive me for trying to sell, but yes, yes, yes. If you want me to come, I'd love to.
everybody heard that, right? So,
Yeah.
Anne is asking if it's recommended for a team of two that each person do their own plan or one plan for both of them.
I would have everybody do their own plan, and then I would, because I think that the activities that are required to support the results we're looking for, plus we've got the personal section in terms of their personal life expenses, and those are going to be different. But I do think that you could pull the numbers side from the business side of it over, and the 2 or 3 or 5 people on the team could join those numbers together and have a look at collectively what it's going to do for everybody. But yeah, you could definitely, do it separately and then wrap back around and look at the business side together as a group.
Ah, perhaps we've lost Chris again.
No, I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, you can do it. You can do it. I would recommend you do it separately, but then come back and take a look at the business side of it collectively. But yes, because of the personal expenses, they should be doing it. They should be running it themselves separately.
Perfect. Well, with that, it looks like we've answered. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
One more thing I wanted to add to that. In the team leader, once the business activities are identified, should use this as a form of coaching their team to consistent production and consistent activities. So this would be a great teaching tool and a great coaching tool to make sure everybody, because everybody's going to do their numbers, and then the team leader can take a look at those numbers and say, did you make your calls? Did you go on your appointments? How many FSBOs did you call? That sort of thing.
And that ties back, like you said, about the accountability issue.
Yes.
Right? Making sure you say, how are you doing everything you need to do every day?
Yes.
Perfect. Well, with that, it looks like most of our questions are answered. So I want to thank everybody for coming in and encourage you again. You can go right away and sign up, royallepage.ca/training to sign up for next month's Sales Success webinar. And we look forward to having everybody back again.
Thank you ever so much, and a big appreciation to everybody at Royal LePage. Have a fantastic 2015, and I hope you'll take time to buy our business plan. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chris, and thank you, everybody.
Okie doke. Bye.